Welcome to the Historypedia channel. My name is Peter and today I will tell you about the history of ancient Egypt from the dawn of time to the conquest of Alexander the Great. The ancient Egyptian civilization is one of the oldest and most significant civilizations in human history. The civilization developed along the Nile River in northeastern Africa and lasted for more than 3,000 years, from approximately 3100 BCE to the conquest of Egypt by Alexander the Great in 332 BCE. The pre-dynastic period of ancient Egypt is the period that preceded the establishment of the first dynasty and the beginning of recorded history in Egypt. This period spans from about 5500 BCE to 3100 BCE, and it is divided into three main phases: the Lower Egyptian, the Naqda I, and the Naqda II. During the Lower Egyptian phase, c. 5500 to 4000 BCE, the people of Egypt lived in small villages along the Nile River, mainly in the Delta region. They practiced agriculture, animal husbandry, and fishing, and they made use of the Nile River for transportation and irrigation. Archaeological evidence shows that the people of this period also engaged in trade with neighboring regions, such as Palestine in the eastern Mediterranean. The Naqda I phase saw the emergence of more complex social and political organization in Egypt. The people of this period developed a system of writing, which was used for administrative and religious purposes, as well as for making personal and decorative items. They also produced more sophisticated pottery and developed new technologies, such as the use of copper for tools and weapons. The Naqda II phase was marked by the rise of powerful chiefdoms and the eventual unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. The people of this period developed a complex religion, which involved the worship of a pantheon of gods and goddesses, and the construction of elaborate tombs for the dead. They also produced more advanced art, including finely crafted statues and intricate jewelry. Overall, the pre-dynastic period of ancient Egypt was a time of significant cultural, technological, and social change. It laid the foundation for the more complex and sophisticated civilization that would emerge during the early dynastic period. The early dynastic period of ancient Egypt is the period following the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt, which marked the beginning of the historical period of Egyptian civilization. This period lasted from about 3100 BCE to 2686 BCE and is divided into two main phases, the Archaic period and the Old Kingdom. During the Archaic period, c. 3100 to 2800 BCE, the first pharaohs of Egypt emerged, beginning with Nahma, who is credited with the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. The pharaohs of this period were both political and religious leaders, and they were seen as the earthly representatives of the gods. They established a centralized government and developed a system of taxation to support the building of public works projects and to fund the religious institutions. The Old Kingdom followed the Archaic period and is considered the period of the Great Pyramids. The pharaohs of the Old Kingdom were known for their impressive architectural achievements, including the construction of the pyramids at Giza. They also developed a sophisticated system of writing, called hieroglyphics, which was used for administrative and religious purposes. The pharaohs of this period centralized the government, established a bureaucracy, and developed a system of taxation. The society of the early dynastic period was highly stratified, with the pharaohs and the royal family at the top of the social hierarchy, followed by the nobles, the priests, and the common people. Slavery was also an important aspect of the society, with slaves being used for labor on public works projects and in the households of the wealthy. The religion of the early dynastic period was polytheistic, with a complex pantheon of gods and goddesses, who were believed to have control over different aspects of nature and human life. The pharaohs were considered divine beings, and the religion played an important role in the organization and legitimacy of the state. Overall, the early dynastic period of ancient Egypt was a time of great cultural and political development, laying the foundation for the more complex and sophisticated civilization that would emerge in the following periods. The Old Kingdom of Ancient Egypt is a period that lasted from around 2686 BCE to 2181 BCE, following the early dynastic period. It is characterized by the building of the pyramids at Giza and the development of a highly centralized government. During the Old Kingdom, the pharaohs of Egypt were considered divine beings and were responsible for maintaining Ma'at, the ancient Egyptian concept of order, balance, and justice. They were the ultimate authority in the land, and their word was law. The pharaohs had a vast administrative apparatus to manage the affairs of the state, which included a complex bureaucracy, a system of taxation, and a powerful military. One of the most significant achievements of the Old Kingdom was the construction of the Great Pyramids at Giza. These were monumental tombs built for the pharaohs and their queens, and they served as a powerful symbol of the pharaoh's divine status and the state's ability to mobilize vast amounts of labor and resources. The largest of these pyramids, the Great Pyramid of Giza, was built for the pharaoh Khufu and is one of the most famous and recognizable structures in the world. The society of the Old Kingdom was highly stratified, with the pharaoh at the top of the social hierarchy, followed by the nobles, the priests, and the common people. The majority of the population were peasants who worked the land and paid taxes to the state. Slavery was also an important aspect of society, with slaves being used for labor on public works projects and in the households of the wealthy. Religion played a crucial role in the life of the Old Kingdom. The Egyptians believed in a complex pantheon of gods and goddesses, who were believed to control different aspects of nature and human life. The pharaoh was seen as the earthly representative of the god Horus and was responsible for maintaining Ma'at and performing rituals to ensure the favor of the gods. Overall, the Old Kingdom was a time of great cultural and political development in ancient Egypt. Its monumental architecture and sophisticated administrative system laid the foundation for the even greater achievements of the Middle and New Kingdoms. The Middle Kingdom of Ancient Egypt is a period that lasted from approximately 2055 BCE to 1650 BCE, following the First Intermediate Period. It is characterized by a period of political stability, economic prosperity, and cultural development. The Middle Kingdom began with the reunification of Egypt under the pharaoh Mentuhotep II, who re-established centralized rule and established a new capital at Thebes. Under his reign, the arts and architecture flourished, and monumental building projects such as the Temple of Amun at Karnak were constructed. The pharaohs of the Middle Kingdom continued to see themselves as the earthly representatives of the gods and were responsible for maintaining Ma'at, the ancient Egyptian concept of order, balance, and justice. They built temples, supported the arts, and undertook public works projects such as the construction of canals and irrigation systems, which helped to boost agricultural production and increase trade. The society of the Middle Kingdom was highly stratified, with the pharaoh at the top of the social hierarchy, followed by the nobles, the priests, and the common people. Slavery was still an important aspect of society, but it was somewhat less prevalent than in previous periods. Religion continued to play a crucial role in the life of the Middle Kingdom. The pharaohs supported the cult of Amun, who became the most important god in the pantheon, and they built great temples in his honor. The pharaohs also continued to perform rituals to ensure the favor of the gods and to maintain Ma'at. One of the most significant achievements of the Middle Kingdom was the development of a literary tradition. Egyptian scribes wrote a wide variety of texts, including historical chronicles, religious texts, and literature. The Middle Kingdom also saw the development of the coffin texts, which were spells and rituals inscribed on coffins and were intended to help the deceased navigate the afterlife. The end of the Middle Kingdom was marked by a period of political instability and the invasion of Egypt by the Hyksos, a group of Asiatic people who took over the Delta region and established the Second Intermediate Period. However, the achievements of the Middle Kingdom laid the foundation for the even greater achievements of the New Kingdom. The New Kingdom of ancient Egypt is a period that lasted from approximately 1550 BCE to 1077 BCE, following the Second Intermediate Period. It is characterized by a period of great military conquests, artistic achievements, and religious innovation. The New Kingdom began with the reunification of Egypt under the pharaoh Ahmose, who expelled the Hyksos and re-established centralized rule. The pharaohs of the New Kingdom expanded their empire through military conquests, which brought them into contact with other cultures and led to an exchange of ideas and goods. One of the most famous pharaohs of the New Kingdom was Hatshepsut, who ruled as a female pharaoh and undertook a number of monumental building projects, including the construction of her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari. Hatshepsut also sent expeditions to Punt, a land located on the Red Sea coast, which brought back exotic goods such as incense, myrrh, and gold. Another famous pharaoh of the New Kingdom was Akhenaten, who attempted to introduce a new religion based on the worship of the god Hn. Akhenaten moved the capital to a new city called Akhenaten and built a series of temples dedicated to the worship of Hn. However, Akhenaten's reforms were short-lived, and after his death, the old religion was restored. The New Kingdom also saw the construction of some of the most famous monuments in ancient Egypt, including the temples at Karnak and Luxor, the Valley of the Kings, and the mortuary temple of Ramesses II at Abu Simbel. The pharaohs also built vast armies and fought a number of famous battles, including the Battle of Kadesh, which took place between the forces of Ramesses II and the Hittites. The society of the New Kingdom was highly stratified, with the pharaoh at the top of the social hierarchy, followed by the nobles, the priests, and the common people. Slavery was still an important aspect of society, but it was somewhat less prevalent than in previous periods. Women also had a more prominent role in society, with some women serving as priestesses and others holding positions of power and influence. Religion continued to play a crucial role in the life of the New Kingdom. The pharaohs supported the cult of Amun, who remained the most important god in the pantheon, and they built great temples in his honor. The pharaohs also continued to perform rituals to ensure the favor of the gods and to maintain Ma'at. The New Kingdom came to an end with the invasion of Egypt by the Sea Peoples and the collapse of centralized rule. However, the achievements of the New Kingdom left a lasting impact on Egyptian culture and continue to fascinate people today. The Third Intermediate Period is a period in ancient Egyptian history that lasted from approximately 1077 BCE to 712 BCE. It was a time of political instability and decline, marked by the fragmentation of the central government and the emergence of regional power centers. The Third Intermediate Period began with the end of the New Kingdom and the decline of the pharaoh's power. The country was invaded by the Libyans, and then by the Nubians, who established the 25th dynasty. The 25th dynasty was an era of political stability and prosperity, during which the pharaohs undertook a number of building projects and expanded their empire through military conquests. However, the Third Intermediate Period was also characterized by the emergence of other power centers, including the priests of Amun, who grew in wealth and influence and were able to challenge the pharaoh's authority. The priests of Amun established their own capital city at Thebes, where they built grand temples and amassed great wealth. The Third Intermediate Period was also marked by a cultural shift, as the traditional Egyptian religion was influenced by foreign cults, particularly those of the Near East. The pharaohs of this period adopted new religious practices and iconography, including the worship of the goddess Bastet and the god Osiris. The Egyptians also began to use the Demotic script, a simplified form of hieratic writing that was easier to use than the earlier scripts. The Third Intermediate Period came to an end with the invasion of Egypt by the Assyrians, who conquered the country and established their own rulers. The Assyrians were eventually driven out by the Nubians, who established the 25th dynasty and initiated the late period of ancient Egyptian history. Despite its political instability and decline, the Third Intermediate Period is still an important era in Egyptian history. The period witnessed the emergence of new power centers and cultural influences that would have a lasting impact on Egyptian society. It also marked the end of the ancient Egyptian civilization, as the country was conquered by foreign powers and the pharaoh's power was permanently weakened. After the Assyrian conquest in 712 BCE, Egypt was ruled by foreign powers for several centuries. The Assyrians were eventually driven out by the Nubians, who established the 25th dynasty and initiated the late period of ancient Egyptian history. The Nubian pharaohs of the 25th dynasty, also known as the Kushite dynasty, ruled from their capital at Napata, in what is now Sudan. They sought to revive the traditions of ancient Egypt and built temples and monuments in the Egyptian style. The Nubian pharaohs were successful in expanding their empire through military conquests, including the reconquest of Egypt from the Assyrians. However, the Nubian pharaohs were eventually overthrown by the Assyrians, who re-established their control over Egypt. The Assyrian king Esarhaddon appointed his son Ashurbanipal as governor of Egypt, and the Assyrians ruled the country for the next several decades. In the 7th century BCE, the Assyrians were themselves conquered by the Babylonians, who took control of Egypt as well. The Babylonians were eventually defeated by the Persians, who established their own rule over Egypt. Under Persian rule, Egypt was divided into administrative districts, or satrapies, and was ruled by a satrap appointed by the Persian king. The Persians sought to revive the traditions of ancient Egypt and continued to build temples and monuments in the Egyptian style. Egypt remained under Persian rule until it was conquered by Alexander the Great in 332 BCE. After Alexander's death, Egypt was ruled by his general Ptolemy, who established the Ptolemaic dynasty. The Ptolemies ruled Egypt for several centuries and continued to build on the traditions of ancient Egypt, including the construction of the famous Library of Alexandria. The Ptolemaic dynasty eventually came to an end with the conquest of Egypt by the Romans in 30 BCE. Egypt became a province of the Roman Empire and remained under Roman control for several centuries, until it was conquered by the Arab Muslims in the 7th century CE. I invite you to subscribe to my channel and to read the books that are in the description. See you again.